What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the JW Sports Talk Show. We're here. We're back. We're ready for NFL Week 6 recap for the Sunday portion of the NFL. We're not going through the Thursday night football game. We're not going through the... We might preview the Monday night football game if I have a little time at the end. Might give my little prediction, but I would like to go through Week 6 recap, give you my thoughts on what happened this weekend, every single matchup we're going to get into. So let's not waste a lot more time. I'd like to get into it. So the first game I want to go through is the Ravens and the Titans, the good old international game. This was a pretty good game. It was, in the beginning it seemed like the Ravens were really going to pull away, and they really were finally going to beat a team that they should really well. They have really kept teams that they shouldn't be losing to, that it's okay if games are close once in a while, but if you're playing these teams that you should be beating and you're struggling to put it away, then it's going to take a toll on the rest of your season. It's not okay to be losing to the Steelers, the Colts, and really keeping the Titans close in it, because all it takes is one big Derrick Henry run for the Titans to take the lead in that game. I don't get how the Ravens are not able to pull away in these games. They're able to keep these teams in the game, which gives them confidence. The longer you keep an underdog in the football game, the more confidence and the better they feel about that game. So it's not good that they can't finish games. And I do want to take a peek real quick. They have really only one game. Two of the games were decided by more than two possessions. Texans in week 1, they beat them pretty good, but the Texans did play them really tough early on. You don't usually want to take away much from week 1 anyways, so okay, let's move on from week 1. Ravens and the Bengals. That game was pretty close, and it's a divisional matchup, but at the time, the Bengals were really reeling. Joe Burrow was still dealing with the calf injury, and they just weren't really clicking. Maybe it was just a divisional rival game, and they're just trying, and they're just figuring out how to get things done. But then out of the Colts scored one touchdown, one or two I don't even think they scored 2 touchdowns. I think they scored 1 touchdown, and they couldn't even put it away in overtime against the Colts. There were multiple times in that game where the Ravens should have won that game. They should have won that game without a doubt, without question. They should have won that game. Yet they didn't. So I don't understand why the Ravens can't put these teams away that they should absolutely be beating. And it's a little concerning because we've seen many, many times when teams can't put other teams away, when you're keeping games close all season long, it tends to take a toll. It tends to take a toll on the defense, on the team, because it's very tiring going week after week in fights. And, it's very difficult regardless whether it's a close game or not, but when you have to really, fight and claw and scratch your way to victory every single week, that's not a way to win. That's not the way to be beating these teams that you should be beating. You lost to the Colts, and, Matt Gay had what? 3 or 4 53-plus yard field goals, and you couldn't get any offense going against a very young Colts secondary. Kenyon Drake fumbled early on in the game when it seemed like the Ravens were really taking the game to the next level, like they were taking the game and it was theirs. It seemed like the Ravens had it. It's kind of seemed like that momentum was swinging the Ravens, and they're probably going to win the football game. Ultimately, that didn't happen. That fumble changed the entire game, and credit to Julius Brents, but to the guy that forced the fumble. But still, you can't be keeping these games close like this, like versus the Steelers. The game was close all game long. They couldn't put them away. At one point, they were up 10-3, and for the Steelers, that feels like an insurmountable deficit to overcome, especially when you're playing such a good Ravens team or in a defense. The Browns, you did beat up on the Browns pretty good, and that was impressive. The Ravens, we're talking about the Ravens, but the Titans, they really struggled against the Titans a little bit, but so it's kind of like what brings me back to the same point I've been talking about. You really need to start putting these games away. And Lamar Jackson looked all right. I still think I still think that they're still getting used to this Todd Monken offense. Then you talk about the other side, the Titans. The Titans, they look pretty good. They looked all right. It seems like they're moving the ball. They just can never convert in the red zone. That's where they're really struggling. The Ravens red zone defense has been phenomenal. The Titans red zone offense has been pretty bad, and you mix those together, it's not a good game for the Titans in the red zone. And then on top of that, you have Ryan Tannehill go down. Then you have Malik Willis for a good portion of the fourth quarter. Malik Willis is not a very good quarterback, in my opinion. You look at, you go back and you watch him play in Liberty, but now you really watch him play in the NFL. He really struggles to read the field. He's kind of like Anthony Richardson in a way. He is an athlete trying to play the quarterback position, and he did not look good yesterday. I thought both offensive lines struggled at times. The Titans ran the ball all right, and it seems like the Ravens' run defense has not been great in the last couple of weeks. They allowed a lot of yards to Zach Moss and the Colts, the Colts offense, and now this week they're allowing a lot to, they allowed a bit to the Titans and Derrick Henry when, the Titans have a really bad offensive line. It's one of the worst in the league, and you still struggled, and Derrick Henry still did make an impact on this game. I'm not saying that they're bad, but they didn't do great. It was kind of like, a performance for this Ravens run defense, and it was pretty good performance by the defense in general, but it's just a matter of fact of this. Is it the offense? Is, not really sure exactly what it is, but the Ravens are going to have to get it figured out because like I just said, you cannot count on, weird things to happen in games where you should win. And if you look at their schedule, it has not been that difficult of a schedule. They're coming into a stretch where the schedule is going to get much more difficult down the line here. They played, the Bengals early on in the season, they weren't looking good, but, they made it a close game. I do think the Texans are a good football team. I don't think the Colts are a great football team. The Browns, they have an elite defense, but the offense is lackluster. You lost to the Steelers. The Steelers record, they're 3-3, they're 3-2 or something, but, the Steelers aren't that great. They aren't that good of a football team. They have a really good defense that's going to score some points, and they're going to rely on that defense to win them games, but you lost a team like that can't really do much on offense. But I will say I was impressed with Kenny Pickett, and then George Pickens made the really nice grab towards the end of that game. And then last week versus the Titans, or this week, it was another poor performance. Another poor performance versus a team that you should be beating up on pretty good. The Titans, their defense is pretty good. And when you play teams with good defenses, generally those games are going to be closer. But this is a team that you should be beating. That you should be beating by more than 8 points. You should be. And they struggled. And yeah, it was an international game. It was a rivalry game, but I don't care. You still got to find a way to get it done. And next week the Ravens are playing the Lions, so yeah, that's that. Knowing the Ravens, that's a game that they would probably somehow, some way find a way to win. It's just kind of like a Ravens thing. It's kind of like an NFL thing, but I don't see it. I did not think that this game went really well for either of these teams. But Lamar Jackson, he had an all right day. He was a leading rusher. They do have a slew of rushers, and, they did run the ball pretty well. They had over 130 yards rushing. Did not have any rushing touchdowns. And but I will say Zay Flowers has been very impressive, and I do think the weapons are good, but, you still got to figure something out in terms of getting more consistent on the offensive side of the ball. So the Ravens beat the Titans in an international game by 8 points. All right, then we have the Panthers and the Dolphins. So the Miami Dolphins go down 14 points to start that game, and I'm starting to question, how their starting games has not been very good. They started a little slow against the Giants, but this offense can get going at 8 point in the game, and that's what's scary about them. It's just a matter of fact of them finding some consistency, because I think that's where the Dolphins are struggling. And the teams that they have beat, as well, have been cakewalks. Now they can't control who they play, and they're going to take advantage of these teams that aren't playing well, and you're going to do what you have to do. So they've been really beating up on these bad teams, but then if we go and take a look at, the teams, the team that they lost to, they got beat pretty good by the Buffalo Bills, and that was a pretty bad game offensively. The Bills have a good defense. They can run the ball decently, and having an inconsistent offense, well, it's not really inconsistent. It's been very good, kind of like just starting the game slow there. I'm very interested to see how this team is going to perform versus some of the best on the stretch. They're playing the Eagles next week. They're playing the Patriots. They should absolutely beat the Patriots. And then, they're playing against another very good defense so far this year. And the Chiefs has been a very good defense. You play the Jets twice. You play the Cowboys. We'll see how they're playing then. You play the Ravens as a very good defense. The Bills, you have a lot of really tough matchups defensive matchup-wise, because the Titans have a really good defense as well. So throughout the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, you're playing at the very least top 10, top 15 defenses. And there's the Titans, you could argue that is going to be top 15, but they're really good at stopping the run, and they're flying around the field as they were versus the Ravens. The Titans defense is pretty good. I just think that the Dolphins are going to have to figure out a way to get it going against a really good defense, because they did struggle versus the Bills a little bit. And, other than that, the defenses they played, they're pretty bad. And then when you can't play defense at a high level yourself, it makes it really difficult to win football games. I think they're going to struggle to stop the run versus the Eagles, and that's part of the Eagles game. They're going to run the darn football, and, if Tua and this Dolphins offense is making mistakes, they're throwing interceptions, or they're having turnovers, and they could struggle, and they can't afford to get down to, they can't afford to go down 14 points, the Eagles, because they will run the football all day long. I could see the Eagles running it like 50 times, so they're going to have to get that run defense and the defense figured out in general, but the offense is going to have to be more consistent against some pretty darn good defenses, because even the Giants kept it close there for for a little while. They fought hard. It's just in general, really good outing, and this offense can turn it on whenever they need to, as they did. They still put up 42 points, but they're going to have to get off to better starts, and we're going to see how they play versus some of these better teams on the stretch. But they have a really good game. Raheem Mostert has been absolutely incredible, and we all know Tyreek Hill is great, really beating up on this Carolina Panthers secondary. The defense, goodness gracious, you did get quite a few sacks on the day. Christian Wilkins was really good. Bradley Chubb getting a couple plays in there, but they really need Jalen Ramsey back to help in terms of defensive wise, because they're gonna have to get some stops on the down the stretch versus some really good football teams, especially if their offense is gonna be turning the ball over a bit. But you do look at the Carolina Panthers side of things. The Panthers look pretty good. They were running the ball all right. They've struggled to run the ball so far this year. And, they played, when they do play a really bad run defense like the Vikings or the Dolphins, they actually ran the ball pretty well. And this is, the Panthers do have one of the worst run offenses in the NFL. They really do struggle running the football, and Chuba Hubbard had a really good game versus the Dolphins. I do like Chuba Hubbard. I don't like how Miles Sanders has played so far this year, but I'm happy Chuba Hubbard got the opportunity to be the lead guy, because he showed why he should be making some big plays. 19 carries, 88 yards. Adam Thielen, really that only consistent target for Bryce Young. They're going to need to find another consistent target outside of Adam Thielen for Bryce Young. Bryce Young, these last couple of weeks has looked pretty good in my opinion. I think he's starting to catch up to NFL speed a little bit, and it's nice to see. It's good to see, because he really struggled the first couple of weeks, but this Panthers team isn't really great, so that's not helping him out, but he's a very good football player. But the Panthers and the Dolphins ultimately pull it out 42 to 20 or 21, but they need to continue this momentum, and they have to start games stronger. They cannot afford to go down versus the Eagles 14 points. You cannot afford to do that. It will be a tough day, a long day if you do. You will be playing catch-up all day long because of that defense. On defense, played pretty well. After allowing the 14 points, they only allowed 7, but ultimately they have not played great defense this year. Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints and the Houston Texans. So the Saints really struggling to get offense going like they have done all year long. But the Texans, C.J. Stroud throws his first interception, and it's very funny how that works out, because the guy that intercepted the football, he then fumbled it, and the Texans got it right back offensively. It was a really bad interception. It was. C.J. Stroud threw it right to him, but, the linebacker was kind of like faking him out, like he always going to go flat, but then he ended up staying with the defender, on the inside, and that got C.J. Stroud. Now, C.J. Stroud didn't have the best games, completion percentage-wise, or none of that, but he made big plays when it mattered most, and I was really impressed with C.J. Stroud. Even though, this was one of his more rough games, he still looked good. He still found a way to do it, and that was a really good Saints defense. It's they have playmakers all over the field. Demario Davis, Marshawn Lattimore, they and the defense line can get after you once in a while. Their defense line has been inconsistent this year, but I've been for the most part impressed with the Saints defense, and I thought C.J. Stroud still did a pretty good job. You still have to hope that some of these guys can continue to get open. Nico Collins looking really good. He's been a really good target for C.J. Stroud. Ultimately, they have struggled to run the ball, and versus the Saints, they are normally known for their good run defense, and they showed it today. They were pretty good today, but the Texans defense struggled a little bit versus Derek Carr. Carr was 32 of 50, 353 yards, and 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So, the Texans defense will need to continue to improve. But I would say I'm pretty impressed with this Texans team. I've told a lot of people going into this year that the Texans would be a much better football team than you think than you thought they could be. They have playmakers on defense. They have C.J. Stroud, who is, I said it was dependent on how well C.J. Stroud plays, and considering C.J. Stroud is playing, honestly, like a top 10 quarterback, the Texans are a very good football team. They are my sneaky pick to win the AFC South. The Jaguars a little inconsistent, but we'll get to them in a little bit. But the Houston Texans really putting away the New Orleans Saints. The defense stepping up, making a couple of big plays. I was really impressed with the defense. But Derek Carr, he had a pretty good game to throw a pick there. I don't remember when the pick was, but he did end up throwing an interception. But Derek Carr, he's gonna give you some good games. And it also seems like that the Saints really struggle in the red zone. That's one of their big issues on offense. Like, it seems like they can, that they can move the ball a bit, but they really struggle in the end zone or in the red zone. So that's something they're gonna have to clean up and continue to get better with. But in general, I was pretty impressed by this Saints defense, or by the Texans defense as well. Even though they allowed 350 passing yards, they still made plays when they needed to. They stiffened up in the red zone, and ultimately that's what helped them win this football game. So the Texans beat up on the New Orleans Saints. What's up, Kevin Byer? I appreciate you. Always try to do a good job. Thank you. But Texans, they're better than people think. And I think they're the sneaky pick to win the AFC South 100% of the way. I even said it before the season, it depends on how C.J. Stroud's going to play. And he's playing really well. He's playing like a top 10 quarterback. So that is why the Texans are playing really good football. Even though he's just shy of 200 passing yards, he still made some pretty big throws when he needed them. And, great quarterbacks have their bad games once in a while. They're always going to have their bad game. They're always going to have that game where they're going to struggle and they're not going to play well. And ultimately, they got it done. They got it done when it mattered most. So, and like I said, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz finally had that game that they've been waiting for. And, even after throwing that interception, they had C.J. Stroud throwing deep down the field already. They know he's strong mentally. They know, that it's not going to bother him, and that it did not. He got in there right away, and he got right back in there, and I believe that he did lead them to a touchdown that drive. So it's very impressive to see a young rookie quarterback just completely forgetting an interception that happened 2 plays ago, and already, throwing it deep. It's good signs. Good signs. He's going to be a very good quarterback for a very long time. All right, then you got the Washington Commanders and the Atlanta Falcons. So I will say Desmond Ridder even though he threw 3 interceptions, I will say when I rewatched this game, he really threw some really impressive footballs. He really threw some really impressive passes into some tight windows, some players in the run. I was really impressed with Desmond Ridder this game. And you did play a very bad Washington Commanders defense, one of the worst in the league. I mean, last week they just let the Chicago Bears score 40 and do whatever they wanted on them, and the Bears, were really thin at running back as well. They couldn't really run the football. DJ Moore, Justin Fields really took it to them, and Justin Fields missed quite a few passes as well. So that So that ultimately makes them look a little bit better, but they still looked horrible, But, I'll say that I was impressed with let's see. I was impressed with Desmond Ridder. Was impressed with, I thought they ran the ball all right. They could have done it better. I actually thought that Tyler Algier really ran the ball much better than Bijan Robinson did this game. He's still just shy of 4 yards per carry, but Bijan had 2.8 over 13 carries. Bijan couldn't really get anything going, and it's understandable. Del Washington front is one of the best in the league, very difficult to run against, so it's understandable. But that's something that you're gonna have to improve on. Blocking up front, running the football, they really got to improve on that. But Drake London, man, he had himself a really nice game. He had over 100 receiving yards, making some really nice catches. He really helped Desmond Ridder out. Then I'll say Kyle Pitts finally had himself a nice game. He's finally getting things going. Hopefully Desmond Ridder, even though he threw 3 interceptions, he still went 28-47 through 307 yards and 2 touchdowns. Even though he did throw 3 interceptions and none of them were good, I really thought we seen something from Desmond Ridder this game, and we seen what he can be, what he can become. We just have to see him continue to build on this performance, because next week he's facing on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have a very good defense, one of the better defenses in the NFL. So he's really going to have to be on his game again next week. Is he going to be able to do it? I don't know, but I'm really impressed with Desmond Ridder and how he looked versus the Commanders. But the Commanders defense line getting pressure majority of the day, but it was enough to win. The Commanders defense did enough to win, and those 3 interceptions really hurt the Falcons big time. Really did. And then Sam Howell on the other side, man, he looked phenomenal. 14-23, 151 passing yards is not great. Still do 3 passing touchdowns. Curtis Samuel, Brian Robinson, and Antonio Gibson all catching 1. Making some really good throws all the time. The Commanders were able to run the football a little bit. Not a lot, but they were running enough. And Sam Howell had himself a good game. It was really the defense that won them this game. Really setting the offense up in some really good positions. Terry McLaurin had a couple of nice catches. But yeah, the defense really put them into some really good situations. And, with Desmond Ridder being young and not really being a great quarterback so far, that definitely helped them win this football game. I thought the Falcons would have won this one. But the Commanders, they take it home. They beat the Falcons, and both teams moved to 3-3 on the day. Then you have the Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Man, the Colts, horrible. As you see, I am a Colts fan. But I've said throughout the offseason and where we are now that I don't think the Colts are that great of a football team. I'm expecting 5 wins, 5-6 wins max. I actually wasn't confident in 5 or 6 wins. It's just there's so many components to this team that need work. And, in big and important positions as well. Cornerback is very inexperienced. The defensive line has been a pleasant surprise this year, but they weren't great yesterday. Trevor Lawrence, he had an all right day. I wasn't too impressed with Trevor Lawrence. Travis Etienne and the Jaguars defense and Gardner Minshew really won it for the Jaguars yesterday. Gardner Minshew played really poor, did have a few nice passes down the stretch, but ultimately just completely sailing passes and throwing right to the Jaguars defenders like almost every time. That's something that they're going to have to improve on and get better with, because you throw 3 interceptions a game, you're not going to win that football game, especially when your defense very inexperienced. Although I will say I've been impressed with the defense, but yeah, it was a really rough day versus the Jaguars. And Gardner Minshew not playing well, couldn't really get the run game going. Josh Downs had himself a nice day. Julius Brands had himself his first interception. But that's good to talk about the Colts. I will still say that, this Jaguars offense still is not where it should be. I think they're still struggling. And, I know they put up a lot of points. Jaguars versus Colts. Let me see. I believe it was 40. No, it was 37. I still put up 37 points, but they really set up in really good field position for majority of the game by that Jaguars defense, getting 3 interceptions on Minshew. Oh my gosh, I'm really struggling to talk and not stutter. But Colts really struggled to run the football, and they stopped the run all right. It's just the offense is what really killed them. The defense has struggled a little bit, but it was mainly the offense which killed them big time. Throwing 3 interceptions, you're not going to win any football game when you're throwing 3 interceptions. I think they fumbled once. It was just a very pathetic performance. Towards the end of the game, it seemed like they're getting a little bit of momentum, and they're trying to pull off the upset. But the Colts just always suck in Jacksonville, and you couldn't do anything against. You couldn't do anything against them. So the Jaguars, they embarrassed the Colts. It was a disgusting performance, but the Jaguars looked pretty good. And you have to give them their props. All right, the Seahawks and the Bengals. So talking about a game of So the Bengals defense played really poorly, but once the Seahawks got to the red zone, it was a completely different story. That Bengals defense is a completely different animal when the opposing team is in the red zone. I think the Seahawks had like 4 or 5 trips to the red zone, and they got a couple of field goals out of it. They got 1 touchdown. They did have, at one point in the game, they kicked a 55-yard field goal, I think they did. So, the offense is very lackluster, especially once you get into the red zone. They're moving the ball all day long. But Geno Smith throwing 2 interceptions. 1 was in the end zone. Like, why are you throwing it to, I don't know who he threw it to, but it might have been JSN. There were 2 guys there. The safety was coming over. You don't make the nice play. It's just why throw that? It makes no sense. And why risk screwing up that field position, screwing up your opportunity to go and score points. Kenneth Walker looked all right. They were able to run the ball at a decent rate. Geno Smith took it for a couple carries as well. I thought Tyler Lockett played phenomenal. I love Tyler Lockett. They got a lot of pressure. The Seahawks got a lot of pressure on the Bengals all day long. But the Bengals, they did what they needed to do. Those couple of interceptions really helped them out. If they didn't get those couple of interceptions, then the Seahawks would probably have they probably would have won the game. But that's the game of football. Could have, would have, should have. Ultimately, the Seahawks couldn't convert in the red zone, and that's the story of this game. If the Seahawks were able to convert in the red zone, or at the very least take care of the ball in the red zone, they probably would have won this one. But they didn't. The Bengals barely get away in a very close game, 17-13 over the Seattle Seahawks. I do really like Jake Bobo. I thought he had a couple of really nice catches as well. There's one where he's hit really hard and still found a way to come down with it. But, even this Bengals defense, they're good against the run, and they're going to allow you to move the football. But they're not going to allow you to score. It is a bend but don't break defense. And, the Bengals looking pretty good. They're winning their last couple of games now. They beat the Seahawks and they beat the Cardinals. So 2-game winning streak. Good to see the Bengals getting on track. Now they're playing the Niners next week. A really tough matchup. Really, really, really tough matchup. But ultimately, they find a way to win. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't great. But they find a way. And sometimes that's all that matters. All right, then you got the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. The Minnesota Vikings, man, they only scored 1 touchdown, 1 offensive touchdown. They scored 1 on defense, and they kicked 1 field goal, I believe. Come on, man. Or they kicked 2 field goals. I don't fully remember. But, scored 1 offensive touchdown. They couldn't get anything going versus one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And, they were without their top target, but, I thought KJ Osborne stepped up. He made a couple of plays, but it's really, when you can't get that run game going, which the Vikings have not been able to at all, when you can't get that run game going, it's pretty, it makes it pretty difficult on these receivers, and it makes it pretty difficult for you to get anything going downfield because those pass rushers are just going to tee off all day long. And the Vikings offense line has not been great, but Kirk Cousins has been doing what he could do. I'm really impressed with Kirk Cousins, but the Vikings need to work on their turnover difference. They're turning the ball over a lot, and they're not getting takeaways themselves, and that's why they're losing games, and they can't get it done in the big moments. But the Bears did make it close there at the end. Tyson Bagent had a chance, ultimately threw the interception, and that's what ended the game. And one of the most important times of the game, Tyson Bagent just throws it up. Don't understand why you're taking that shot at that point in the game, in the situation. But, he's young. He'll get better. Justin Fields didn't look really good. He was very inconsistent throwing it. It was really him running the football that made, that he really made a difference in the first half. But, we really see how inconsistent he is. He played one of the worst. The Vikings and the Bears both have pretty horrible defenses. Both of the defenses are some of the worst in the NFL. So why can't you get anything going once again? It's like you had that one drive where you went down and you scored. Wait, did they score a touchdown or was it 2 field goals? I don't even remember, but it's pretty bad. Well, it's pretty bad when you can't get anything going against the Vikings defense. It's a pretty bad defense, and Justin Fields struggling to get anything going. You got to get better at that. He's got to be more consistent. When Justin Fields is on, it seems like he's playing really well. But, it also seems like a matchup thing. But then now when you just play the Vikings, he was 6 for 10. They were running the football a ton. And maybe the receivers weren't getting open. But no. Actually, as I was watching the game, I noticed that there were a lot of receivers that were getting open. DJ Moore was open a couple of times, yet Fields just wasn't making that look. He wasn't processing the field like he should be. So, not a great game by Fields, but he does go down. He does end up going down with a dislocated finger of some sorts. Tyson Bagent came in. I thought Tyson Bagent looked pretty good. Jonathan Foreman was running the ball all right. It's just, when you're down quite a bit and you can't run the ball really efficiently, it really, outside of Justin Fields, because you saw down the stretch of the game when you had Tyson Bagent, which Bagent can move. He had the rushing touchdown. Bagent can move, but he's not a burner like Fields. He's not as fast as Justin Fields. So it really makes it much more difficult to run the football because that defense could really stack the box more and really focus on just the running back. They don't really have to be very careful because Tyson Bagent, like I said, he's athletic and he can run, but he's not Justin Fields asking that in that sense. But Kirk Cousins had himself an all right day, 21-31, 181 yards. He did what he could do, man. He was under pressure a bit, and you can't really do much when you're under pressure a lot, and your guys aren't really getting open consistently. I thought KJ Osborne had a couple of nice catches. Jordan Addison had himself the receiving touchdown. I think Jordan Addison is going to be the lead guy in this offense, probably at receiving. Maybe T.J. Hawkinson as well, but at least they have T.J. Hawkinson in the middle, very good tight end. Always, he made a lot of really nice catches. It's just like, man, come on, like their defensive line, on defense they were getting pressure, and the defense really won them this game because offense couldn't really do much, and the defense got that interception on. No, was it an interception? Yes, it was an interception, and took it, scored a touchdown. But Minnesota Vikings find a way to beat the Chicago Bears. Good divisional matchup win. Hopefully they could get some offense going, but ultimately they take the loss. San Francisco 49ers and the Cleveland Browns. Big time upset in this one. Big time upset. So the 49ers played a horrible game. Brock Purdy played a horrible game. It was bad all game long. And, that Browns defense is elite. It's one of the best in the league, if not the best. It is that freaking good. They're going to get pressure on you all day long. They have really good coverage with Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome. They are such a darn good football team. They really are. Well, defense. The offense struggled. Philip Walker isn't great. They were able to get the run game going a little bit. It's just really unfortunate that Jake Moody couldn't put it through the upright. Very fortunate because, like I said, Brock Purdy and this entire 49ers team, well, really the offense was horrible. A long, long day they had. But when it mattered most, Brock Purdy, without Christian McCaffrey, without Deebo Samuel, still had Kittle and Ayuk. Without those guys, Brock Purdy, against a defense that is allowing the least amount of yards per game, an elite defense, they find a way to get it done. Purdy found a way to get them down the field. Unfortunately, your third-round pick kicker could not win you the game. And if you're going to pick a kicker in the third round, and he can't make that kick, come on, man. I get it. He's young. He's a rookie. So, he's going to miss kicks. Every kicker misses kicks. But when you draft a kicker in the 3rd round, you expect him to make that kick every single time. That is why you don't kick a kicker in the 3rd round. You just don't. I guess he was Mr. Automatic, very good at Michigan. Yeah, he never missed, but he still doesn't justify drafting him in the 3rd round. Drafting a kicker in the 3rd round. Now, Snyder's defense, they did what they could. They got the very important stop down the stretch. And the Browns did kick that field goal. But ultimately, it was Jake Moody who could not finish it off. He could not complete the game-winning drive for Brock Purdy. It sucks. It's a team effort. So they both lose. Brock Purdy loses his first regular season game. And it is what it is. The Niners look beatable. It goes to show, they slipped up, and anyone's beatable. You can beat anyone. But I think the Niners will get going next week, once again, versus the Bengals. A really bad defense. We'll see how they do in the red zone versus that red zone defense in the Bengals. But ultimately, the Browns, talk about the Browns a little bit. They ran the ball right. At one point, it seemed like, it was the Niners that was going to win, but it was really a close game. It was a defensive battle throughout the entire thing, and they're very fortunate that Jake Moody could not get it done at the end. But I will say Philip Walker making a few very questionable decisions really towards the end of that game. Why are you going to put the ball in harm's way like that towards the end when you're in field goal position? You most likely have the points on the board. Why would you do that? But the Niners defense still looked really good. They still did a very good job. But there were a lot of penalties too. I believe the Niners were penalized quite a bit. So that's another thing that they have to work on. But yeah, big upset for the Browns. For Niners, no longer undefeated. There's no longer any undefeated teams in the NFL. And I believe there is only one team that doesn't have one win. And I think it's the Carolina Panthers. So hopefully the Panthers could get a win sometime soon. Patriots and the Raiders. Patriots. They are just self-destructing. This looks nothing like a Bill Belichick team. They're making a lot of little mistakes. Mac Jones throwing interceptions. Defense not looking like the Bill Belichick defense. The Raiders did not score 20 points in the season up until today. Or up until yesterday, last week versus the Patriots. 21 points is their season high. And Brian Hoyer actually did all right against you when he stepped in. Hope Jimmy G's good. I believe he went to the hospital with some kind of back issue, which I hope he's all right. I hope he's going to be good. I heard Damien Harris is on the Bills now, but I heard something happened to him, but it sounds like he's doing better, which is good. I was still thinking that Damien Harris is on the Patriots. Come on, man. Come on. All right, but then you got Patriots and the Raiders. Brian Hoyer did what he could. And Bill Belichick is 0-3 versus Josh McDaniels led teams. It's just Mac Jones really struggling, throwing interceptions, horrible interceptions. Devontae Parker dropping wide open passes. It's like, yeah, man, what's going on? The offensive line is horrible. They failed to go and address right tackle last offseason. They knew it was bad. They never addressed it. The Patriots are one of the worst teams in the NFL right now. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL right now. 100%. And they can't take care of the small details. They can't do the simple things right. They aren't getting it done. And they just have big limitations. They can't get it done. And then now you're really struggling versus these teams at the bottom. When you go and play some of the best teams, they play the Cowboys who, they're a very good football team. They got absolutely killed by the Cowboys. They got embarrassed by the Saints. And now they just lost to the Raiders. Really struggling. Really having it taken to them this season. It's embarrassing for a Belichick team. It's embarrassing. What's up, Jacob? What's up, family? How you doing? So it's pretty embarrassing for the New England team. Bill Belichick. Is he going to be on his way out the door soon? Very well could be. Very well could be. Will it be sooner rather than later? No, they will. I will be shocked if they fire Bill Belichick mid-season. I will be shocked. But this team is starting to get really pathetic. They're really bad on third down. They were down 13-3 at one point, and there's only so much a defense could do for you. They have an awesome defense. Belichick is below average coach without Brady. That's what we're seeing, family. That's what we're seeing. He's really struggling. Can't get it done. Without Brady, he has sucked. He has sucked. But you can't. The defense can't win the games for the offense. The defense trying to do a job, and when the offense can't get the job done, you start to get rumblings within the defense. The defense doesn't really. It's not that they don't want to play. It's that the defense gets tired out. They get worn out. Like the Colts defense did last year. I'm not saying the Colts defense was good. It was a pretty bad defense. But it looked worse as the season went on because when you're doing your job and the offense can't do their job, it's very tiring. It's very, demoralizing, if you know what I mean. It's pathetic the way this Patriots team has played. And, the offense isn't able to help the defense out at all. They're not able to do anything. And, this Patriots team is going to count on their defense to win games. The defense probably has a better chance of scoring more points than the Patriots do at some points. They're going to rely on their defense to score points. And it's not the way to win. It's not the way you're going to win. So, really pathetic. But then the Raiders on the other end, you talk about the defense, they're 1-6 in the red zone. 1-6. 1-6 in the red zone. So defense did as much as they could do. But, like I mentioned earlier, that is the first time that the Patriots or the Raiders break 20 points. It's the first time. It's pathetic. And the Patriots are one of the worst teams in the NFL. Do the Patriots have a top 5 pick when this year is all said and done? Probably. They'll probably have a top 3 pick. Wouldn't shock me. Team's playing horrible. They don't have anything. Nothing. Nothing's going their way. Mac Jones ain't playing good. That's about all I really got. All right, then you move on. We had the Buccaneers and the Lions. Man, am I excited to talk about the Lions. This team, after winning this game, has officially put themselves in the conversation as a Tier 1 team in the NFC. They are in that tier with the Eagles, the Niners. The Cowboys are I don't think they're in that tier. The moment they played one of those Tier 1 teams in the Niners, they got embarrassed. They were embarrassed. Now the Eagles, they really struggled yesterday, offensively. Jalen Hurts didn't look good. Hurts has a lot of work to do. But the Lions, they've been, in one game, you could argue that they should have won that game versus the Seahawks. They threw, 2 pick sixes in a row. A lot of turnovers, really struggling in that game. Something that the Lions have not really done this season. And it was kind of like one of those games, you just beat the Patriots in Arrowhead. You have all this hype, and rightfully so. I mean, it was a Seahawks, which was fine. But this is a legit team. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear this. The Detroit Lions are a legit Super Bowl contender. 100%. You're getting Jameson Williams back. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who you've already had there. Josh Reynolds has been playing awesome. You have so many darn weapons. And don't forget, you have Sam Laporta at tight end, who has been awesome. The offensive line is great. You run the ball like it's no issue. And listen to this. Jared Goff is playing like an NFL MVP. Jared Goff is playing at such a high level. He's playing some of the most clean football throughout. So far this season, 69.5 completion percentage, 1,618 passing yards, 11 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 105.1. He's playing at an MVP level, ladies and gentlemen. Jared Goff is playing. Say it one more time. Jared Goff is playing at an MVP level type of football. And if he continues to play like this, if he continues to do what he's doing, freaking phone, shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Do not disturb. I could see this Lions team coming out of the NFC. It is very possible. The Niners looked beatable yesterday. The Eagles, they're vulnerable right now. They can't, they're very inconsistent. Some games are getting offense going. Some games they can't. Jalen Hurts has a lot of work to do. He's not reading the field well at all. It's just this Eagles team is kind of like a mess. Now, their defense line is great. Their defense is great. But let's also... All right, my bad. I'm getting off topic. We'll talk about the Eagles in a couple minutes. But they're a legit team. They're a legit Super Bowl team. The Lions are that good of a football team. And the offense will only continue to get better. The defense, Aaron Glenn, he's got this defense playing at a very high level. And early on in the season, the defense wasn't looking really good. Although they did have a good game versus the Patriots. Or not the Patriots, the Chiefs. Really good game then. As the season is going on, the defense is only getting better. This is a very good football team. A lot of good weapons. Jared Goff is playing at an MVP type level. Defense is making plays all season long. They're getting the job done. And they're going to continue to do so with that good of a football team. Niners look beatable. Eagles, like I said, they're vulnerable. But and then on the Buccaneers side of things, they're an interesting football team. Their defense is very good. Very good defense. Offensive-wise, they're very inconsistent. They're good on third down. They can't really run the football too well. Baker Mayfield has been clutch on third downs. I have been impressed with Baker Mayfield so far this year. But he did really struggle yesterday. This offense as a whole struggled yesterday. They missed a couple of deep shots. Could have made this game closer. So that's something you can maybe factor into the Lions, but into the Lions defense playing much better. But at the end of the day, throws are missed all the time. Deep shots are missed all the time. It's a part of the game. And that Lions defensive line, very strong. I think the Lions should make a strong push for Frank Clark. Make a strong push for Frank Clark. As we know, the Broncos are on fire sale. They're on fire sale. They're selling everyone as much as they could, as many picks as they can possibly get. And and I think the Lions should take advantage of such because James Houston, he's out. Unfortunately, he's one of the more explosive edge rushers. It sucks to see him go out. But the Bucs have played much better. I still think they're a much better football team than what we thought coming into this year. But they're not as good as they looked in the first couple of weeks. But they started 3-1, I think. Something like that. They were playing really well. 3-1, 3-2. The Bucs are a good football team. I think they're a fringe playoff team. Fringe. Very fringe. And it's going to be between them and probably the Saints for a division. Maybe the Falcons are sneaky if Desmond Ridder can continue to improve and get better, which he has not been able to do. Well, no, I don't know why I'm saying he's not been able to do, but he was able to do much better. Even though he threw 3 picks, they were bad 3 picks, but he made a lot more impressive throws than I've been seeing him make. So he's improving in that category, but it seems like when he throws a pick, he throws an interception, it stays up here. It stays up here. And great quarterbacks, very good quarterbacks, that's not present. They don't have that issue. Desmond Ridder seems like he may. All right, move on to the Cardinals and the Rams. I think the Joshua Dobbs experiment is over. It should be over. If not, it will be over very soon. Has not looked very good. It's 21-41. 235 yards, 1 interception, 0 touchdowns. It's overthrown quite a few passes. He completely missed Hollywood Brown for a touchdown, wide open. Couldn't do it then. And a lot of his yards came from the last drive, but that was like garbage yardage. That That wasn't too much of, them just, yeah, you give them credit and they got the yards, but you also have to take the situation into consideration and say that it was garbage time. So the Rams are like, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. And I believe the Cardinals were up, 9-6 at halftime? The defense was playing really hard. The offense, he scored 9 points. He didn't score a touchdown. But, yeah. Hopefully Kyler Murray could come back soon. Hopefully Kyler Murray can play better, which he could. He's capable of playing much better than Joshua Dobbs. Dobbs doesn't have a great situation. He has Hollywood. Zach Ertz, he has a kid. He has that young tight end, Trey McBride, out of Colorado State. It's just this Cardinals team, especially the offense. It seems like they play well in the first half, like they have been starting well, but then they shut down. Like once the second half comes around, it seems like they shut down and they don't know what to do. And they've been very inconsistent. We saw versus the Giants. They're up 28-something. Couldn't finish it. Couldn't keep it going. Couldn't do anything in the second half. This week versus the Rams. The Rams just dominated the Cardinals. The Rams just dominated the Cardinals. They just flat out dominated them in the second half. It was obvious. The score, if you look at the score compared to the first half to the second half, it's quite obvious that the Rams dominated the Cardinals. Quite obvious. But Cooper Kupp, a lot of people were saying that Puka Nacua is that number one guy in that offense. I'm like, yeah, he looks really good. But when Cooper Kupp comes back, he's going to be the number one. He's going to be the focal point. And that he is. Puka's still a very good receiver. He's still awesome. He was getting a lot of attention since he was emerging as well. But Cooper Kupp did his job. Rams defense killed it in the second half. Was it maybe a mixture of how bad the Cardinals are in the second half and maybe just the Rams playing better in the second half? Absolutely. But Rams dominated the second half. Matthew Stafford looked really good. Yeah, Cooper Kupp making plays. Kyron Williams had a really nice game. He had a lot of rushing yards. And I believe in the first half, he had a ton. He was playing really well. It was the first or second half that he went off. But there's like a point where he couldn't get anything going. Let me see. Rams versus Cardinals. Yeah, I think he had a lot in the first half, and he killed it. Yeah, 20 rushes for 158 yards, but kind of went cold in the second half, I believe it was. He went cold. I believe he did. Or was the first? I don't remember, but there was a period where he went cold, and they couldn't really run the football. But Cardinals, he dominated by the Rams. Joshua Dobbs' experiment getting old. Should be over. If not, it will be over in a couple weeks when Kyler Murray comes back. Eagles and the Jets. Yikes. This is a big yikes for the Eagles. It's like, you can't get anything going on offense at all. Jalen Hurts, those 3 interceptions. It's just a pathetic performance by this Eagles offense. Devontae Smith was dropping quite a few passes. A.J. Brown had a monster of a game. I think he has 4 games with 100-plus receiving yards. So he's been a monster. Devontae Smith, he's been very good. He's slowed down since the beginning. He dropped a few passes yesterday. Very unlike him. Jalen Hurts throwing 3 interceptions. Hurts just staring down receivers. Just not playing well. Hurts is not an elite quarterback. He has not shown it. And winning all those games with Jake Elliott early on. Really struggling versus the Patriots in week 1. I get it, it's week 1, but the Patriots are looking like absolute dog crap now. Kind of keeping teams in games. The Eagles, there's some games where they're having really good offensive performances. Some games where they're having really good defensive performances. But they're too inconsistent. They're too far in between. I don't see it in the Eagles right now. I don't see greatness in the Eagles. It's just, you did play a really good defense. And let's give credit to the Jets' defense. They played absolutely phenomenal like they have all year long. They've been incredible. I'm one of the few people coming in this year. I'm like, yeah, that Jets defense is pretty darn good. It's going to be good. A lot of people are like, nah, that Jets defense ain't it. All right. Why don't you tell me now that Jets defense ain't good? Why don't you tell me now? Let's hear it. DeAndre Swift didn't have a great game. He fumbled. It's just this Eagles offense. So let's talk about when an offense relies on the run a lot. Let's not ignore that. Versus the Vikings. Just earlier on in the season, this, really the whole season so far, this Eagles team has been so dependent on running the football, it's worrisome. When you see teams running the football a lot, more than usual, more than what you would think, that usually means, there's a lack of creativity. There's a lack of success on passing the football. And you're not going to win the big games if you can't pass the football when you need to versus the best teams, versus the best defenses. I'm not seeing that in Jalen Hurts. The Eagles' offensive line has been struggling a little bit. I think they've been very inconsistent. But this Eagles team, man, very inconsistent. They can't get it done. But let's give credit to the Jets. They really got fortunate that, I don't really believe in luck or fortune, but they forced those interceptions. They forced them. With the combination of Jalen Hurts making bad decisions, the Jets took advantage as much as they could. And they eventually came out with the win. So the Eagles really have to get it figured out here. They can't continue to depend on the run. They have to get the offense figured out. And, they have a pretty tough schedule. Let's look at the schedule down the stretch. Let's look at the schedule. Down the stretch. Well, they play the Commanders next week. Hopefully they beat them. It's in Washington. The Eagles have been known to lose to Washington. They're used to splitting. Dallas. We'll see how that defense continues to play without Trayvon Diggs. They've struggled a little bit. We'll see how they do tonight versus the Chargers. Eagles playing the Chiefs. The Chiefs have been one of the better defenses in the league so far. They've been very good this year. The Bills, one of the best defenses in the league. The 49ers, great defense. Cowboys, they play the Cowboys again. And then on the stretch, they play the Seahawks, the Giants twice, and the Cardinals. But and then they play the Dolphins. No, they play the Commanders in 2 weeks. They play the Dolphins next week. That's a game that they could probably win by just running the football and just hoping the Dolphins can make a mistake or two on offense. But we'll see if the secondary can continue to get healthy. And I see a lot of people complain about injuries and the refs. Shut up, man. Just shut up, please. I don't care which team you like. I genuinely don't care. Stop complaining about the refs, the injuries, because games don't come down to the refs. It comes down to all the little mistakes that the team has made. And if you have injuries, so be it. Every team has injuries. Next man up. No one cares. Go out there and find a way to get it done. Especially if you're considered one of the best teams in the NFL. You have to go out and get it done. No one cares. No one cares. But, let's say, Eagles are not looking great. They've really struggled to get it done. They've kept teams that aren't so great in games. See if the Eagles can find a way to break it, to find some momentum, to find some consistency. Because so far, they have found none. And yeah, they're 5-1, but they're heading into a very difficult stretch. You have the Dolphins, one of the best offenses in the league, if not the best. The Commanders. You notoriously struggle against the Commanders. The Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Niners, the Cowboys again, the Seahawks, who are no cakewalk. Yeah. That's not an easy schedule. It's going to make or break who the Eagles are. It's going to make or break who they are. And like I was just saying, they may have injuries. Some people may be complaining about the refs. I genuinely don't care. No one cares. It's next man up. It's a game of football. Every team has injuries. There's every game where teams deal with bad calls on both sides. So, and there's always times in the game where teams mess up, where they struggle. They miss on the little opportunities. And that's where you could have won the game. That's where you should have executed. Instead, you're complaining about the refs to bail you out. Not the way to go. Not the way to go. It is what it is. And I will say, a lot of the calls have been bad this year. The refs have been pretty bad. But there's, in a lot of games where people are just straight up complaining about the refs, there's so many other times in the game where the team that lost could have won. They didn't get it done. Just like the Giants and the Bills game. Let's move on to that. The Giants. Props to the Giants. I'm impressed with them. The last couple of weeks, they played the Dolphins hard. Ultimately lost by 2 scores. They played the Dolphins really tough. And I'll even say versus the Niners, I thought that they played the Niners really tough in the beginning of that game. They came back against the Cardinals. Like, I see some potential there with the Giants team. I see some potential there. But it's just, they're still a long ways away. But I was impressed with their defensive performance yesterday versus the Bills. Deontay Banks has been incredible. He's been awesome. Other than that, the defense isn't great. But the Bills, is it time to hit that panic button for the Bills a little bit? Last week you lost to a Jaguars team in which the Jaguars really didn't play that great. A lot of crazy turnovers. There were a lot of penalties in that game, but there were a lot of turnovers, a lot of opportunities for the Bills to win that football game. Ultimately, they got the offense going way too late. The Giants' offense line is trash, to say the least. It's horrible. It is horrible. One of the worst in the league. I do think Washington's is the worst in the league. There's a lot of really bad offensive lines, though. There's not a lot of good offensive line play this year. But the Giants, they're fighting hard. And you could tell. But it's just not enough. They're just not getting the job done. And, I feel like there's a little bit to do with coaching there. Although I will say that this team always plays hard. There's a little bit of coaching in there because I think Dable, throwing the iPad a couple weeks ago, he really shows his frustration. And I think that's something, it's going to happen. That kind of stuff is going to happen. But I feel like this Giants team is just predictable. But and then people are complaining about the refs in this game. Shut up, man. They're complaining, at the end there was a hold on Darren Waller. There was a hold on him. I think it was Teron Johnson or whoever that Johnson is, and the Bills he was holding. Giants fans complaining about the flags. Well, you actually got a flag to bail you out at the end. You actually had the second chance with no time on the clock. So you got a penalty there. But when they talk about that no call at the end, Daniel Jones is not a franchise QB. They shouldn't have paid him. Jones hasn't played good. He has really struggled. But, dude, as soon as Jones looks up, the defense is there. And the receivers aren't really getting open for him. But I thought Tyrod Taylor looked okay yesterday. Tyrod Taylor looked like a backup quarterback. Misses some throws here and there. Did make a few nice plays. A few really nice throws. And the Giants haven't scored a touchdown in a long time. Blame the refs as a terrible excuse just to admit you got played. Exactly. 100%. Because how about we go back to the end of the first half? You've probably seen it. The Giants were at the 1-yard line. You couldn't have scored then at the end? Even if you just kicked the field goal. Couldn't have done it then? You couldn't have scored the touchdown then? Hello? It's just, exactly what you said. It's a horrible excuse. No one cares if you got a bad call. No one cares if you have injuries. These things happen to every single football team. No one cares. No one cares. I don't. But, should we worry about the Bills? because they lost to the Jaguars last week, rightfully so. The Jaguars did what they had to do, pulled it off. The Jaguars looked really good this week, absolutely killing the Colts. Colts didn't have a shot. Gardner Minshew was absolutely horrible. The entire team was absolutely horrible. Always play horrible in Jacksonville, but you give Jacksonville the props. They played really well. But then this week, really struggling versus the Giants. And Josh Allen is one of those quarterbacks. When he is playing bad, although I thought Josh Allen played good. I think he played great. I thought he played good. Josh Allen's one of those quarterbacks. Once you hit him, you get him mad, you get him out of focus, he genuinely can't recover. He doesn't have the mental strength to recover from that, I've noticed. But in general, the Bills find a way to win. They find a way to get it done. But I still think there's some worry. And it just doesn't make sense. This Bills team will have those games where they just in these stretches where they look like the most dominant team in the NFL. But then they're like limping. They're struggling. They can't get it done. It's very confusing. And I think it may be a product of Josh Allen just being an inconsistent quarterback. And not having someone else other than Stephon Diggs to be able to step up consistently. Now the Bills they're playing differently. They play in different packages. The Bills will be fine. They'll eventually figure it out. I agree. I think they will as well. But last two games are a little concerning, especially versus the Giants. But, hey, you still won. Great teams have bad games. It happens. They found a way to win. All right, so let's take a peek at tonight's game. The Chargers and the Cowboys. Who do you guys have for tonight's game before I get into it? Who do you guys have? I have the Cowboys. I do think the Cowboys will win tonight. We'll get into our Monday Night Football preview a little bit. Let's look at the Cowboys. I want to look at the injuries versus Chargers injury report. Let's see. Let's take a peek at the injuries here. All right. Let's see. So it looks like Joshua Palmer is out for that game. I'm trying to see if I can find a good injury report. All right. Cowboys injuries. I don't really like that injury report. I really like I've tried this one. How's this one look? All right, so for the Cowboys, Leighton Vander Esch and C.J. Goodwin are out. Leighton Vander Esch is a pretty good linebacker. He's out with a concussion. Cornerback C.J. Goodwin is out with the pectoral. Doubtful, safety. Juanya Thomas, don't know how to say his name. He's doubtful with a hamstring. Questionable. Chuma Edoga. I don't know those guys. A lot of those guys. I know Leighton Vander Esch. That's about it. How about the... Okay, some of these websites just are not... Here we go. Here's the website I usually use. All right. Let's see what you guys have said. Can see the Chargers winning it if they don't turn the ball over. I agree. That's my thing. If the Chargers can't take care of the football, I think the Chargers will win. So if the Chargers can't take care of the football, don't turn the football over, if the offensive line can play okay, the Chargers have a shot because the Cowboys defense is beatable. It is vulnerable. If you could block Micah Parsons in that defense line, you could create some time for your quarterback. They're beatable. But, all right. Let's look at the injury reports. Tony Pollard, sounds like he was limited in practice, but he should play. Kevontae Turpin, ankle, did not participate in practice. The offensive guard that we talked about, Chuma Edoga, he is questionable with an illness. Damone Clark, the linebacker, he was limited in practice. You have Juanya Thomas, safety, doubtful. Now I get into the Chargers. So it does look like Austin Eckler will be back. He was a full participant in practice. He doesn't have an injury designation going to the game, I don't think. Full participant. He's not questionable. He's not listed as doubtful, questionable. That's good. It's good news. That will definitely help if they get the ball out quick. Kind of get some screens going, really try and help that offensive line against that really strong front of the Cowboys. You have Dane Leonard, he's doubtful. Josh Palmer, I believe he was placed on injury reserve, and the Chargers just brought an injury up, or just brought a receiver up, so obviously he will not be playing. Trey Pipkins is out. Oh, no, he's a full participant. He should be playing. Nick Williams, Joey Bosa is questionable, and Donald Parham is questionable. So those are some pretty big questionables there. There's some pretty big questionables. But if I have to pick, I'm going to go with the Cowboys. Because I think their defense is going to make a couple more plays. Now, especially if Joey Bosa's out, that's going to make it much more easy for this Cowboys offense to get the ball going, to get it going. And they could, 100%. They have the firepower. CeeDee Lamb, Cooks. They have a lot of really, they even have Michael Gallup. I really like their young tight ends and Jake Ferguson, even Schoonmaker. I really like some of their tight ends, their weapons. Tony Pollard looks like he will play. So you have some positives. And the Cowboys should be able to win. They're the better all-around football team. And this is the kind of team that they could beat. When the Cowboys play a team that has a horrible defense, that isn't a complete team, even though they still have one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Justin Herbert, those are teams that are beatable for them. But when the Cowboys play complete teams like the Niners, they got nothing. Because Dak Prescott really struggles against good opponents, good defenses. He really struggles against them. That's why they struggle in the playoffs. But I think the Cowboys will do just enough. I think they'll do enough on offense, and I think the defense will do just enough. The defense will do what they need to do, what they need to get done. I can see defense getting a couple turnovers. And also, I believe it is Austin Eckler's first game back. But I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys tonight. I think the Dallas Cowboys win this football game tonight. But I can absolutely see the Chargers winning it. It's either this game is going to be close or the Cowboys are going to blow them out. There's no in between. It's going to be one of those two. But if the Chargers do actually beat up on the Cowboys pretty good, it is time to hit that panic button. It is time to be really worried about that Cowboys team. I'd say even if they lose, because you're playing one of the worst defenses in the league, they struggle against the run, and you're playing an offense that's inconsistent, not because of Justin Herbert, but because the weapons are inconsistent. You do have Keenan Allen, who's absolutely incredible. Other than Keenan Allen, who's going to step up? You do have Austin Eckler coming back this week. That's a big plus. But the Cowboys defense should be able to get the job done. They should be able to get enough pressure on Justin Herbert. They should be able to get a couple of turnovers. That's why I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys tonight. All right, guys. I think that's going to do it for our Week 6 recap. Really excited to be getting into a brand new schedule. I do want to go live very much more. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. I want to go live every single one of those days. Wednesdays, I'm not sure. But I would like to get into a schedule where I'm going live almost every day because I just feel like it's more fun. It's better. It's, I really want to change the way this show goes a little bit. To change the direction of the channel. It's still going to be about football. We're still going to talk about the Colts often. But I want to do lives. Kind of similar to the Pat McAfee show. Honestly. Similar to that. Because I love talking football. And, I just like going live, talking with you guys. Live. I just think it's better. And there's a lot more to talk about. There's a lot more we could talk about. I don't have to make all individual crazy videos. I could go live, talk about the main topics for a week. Go live every single day. Touch base with, every single day. And I feel like that's what a show is. And that's what I really want to become. That's what I want to do. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue to do videos. I'm probably going to do some. But I think we're going to gear towards more actual show like content. Going live almost every day. So as long as you guys can stick with me, stay patient. I know today wasn't, not great, but we have, we're rebranding everything. We have the new logo, the new background, just trying to make everything a little more clean. Just taking that next step, taking that new direction that I think we need to take. And I appreciate you guys sticking by us. I hope you stick by us. Thank you, Jacob, for being here this stream. Thank you, Kevin. And I appreciate everyone who has been here along the way. But that is kind of the direction that I plan to be taking with this channel. Lots of lives, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. For now. And I am probably going to be doing some videos here and there as well. I'll probably cut up lives and release, little video snippets from the lives as videos. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this new format. I hope you guys do enjoy the new direction that the channel is going to take. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in to the JDW Sports Talk Show, where every fan is welcome. If you enjoy this video, make sure to like, subscribe, put the post notification bell on so you will see future videos. Make sure to share, tweet it, and as you see, we have our hashtag JDW Sports Talk Show Live. When you share it to Twitch, or just share it, get it out there. We're gonna do this every single day, much more often. So, I appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you, Jacob. I appreciate everyone for being there. You've really been here since the start, fam. So I really appreciate everyone who has been here from the start. I really do appreciate you. But thank you guys for staying patient. I hope you guys, enjoy the new direction that the channel will take and is taking. This is all I got for you guys tonight. It's JW Sports Talk Show. Signing off.